Hello, scholars. Today is your very first ELA lesson where we are going to be doing a close reading main idea lesson. So how this is going to work is I am going to read a text to you. I'm going to be giving you some clues as I'm reading the text and things. I'm going to be pointing out some things that you should be including in your main idea. And at the end of this video, when you finish watching it, what we would like you to do is write down the main idea of this text. And if you have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen at home to write the main idea down, that would be fantastic. Once you write down your entire main idea, if you can, we would love for you to take a picture of it and post it on this assignment in your student portfolio on Class Dojo. If you are having trouble accessing your portfolio on Class Dojo, you could also take a picture of it and just send it in a regular message to either myself or Miss Christian so that we know that you have completed this work. And you will be graded on completion, okay? So as long as we see that you watched this video and that you are giving some sort of response about the main idea, then you will receive credit for that. If you are unable to take a photo or use paper and pencil at home, what you could do instead is actually record a video of yourself talking about the main idea. That would be completely acceptable as well. Or you could just write and type it into Class Dojo as a message and send it to us that way, or attach it to your portfolio as a third option. So hopefully one of those works for you. We're going to give this a try and see how it goes. So pretending like we're in class right now and what we've practiced over and over again this year with close reading, we are actually going to be revisiting a text today that we already read this year. And the name of that text is called A Mother for Choco. And just like we would in the classroom, I'm going to flip my camera so that you can see this text. And this is where you are going to take a sneak peek and ask yourself that one big question, which is, what is the genre? Okay, what is the genre? And that when we decide what the genre is, we know that we have one of three choices. It could either be a fiction, nonfiction text, or a poem. All right. So I'm going to flip my camera, show you the 2 pages of this text. And I want you to be looking for clues that might help you decide what the genre is. So here we go. Ready? So here's the first page. You see the title of the text. And take a look at these. Okay. And on the next page, continue looking. Okay, I want you to be asking yourself, are these photographs or are these illustrations? That might help you decide. And take a really good look at this bottom picture. Okay, what is happening here and what big clue does that tell us about the genre? Okay, think about, in real life, would we see an alligator, a hippo, and a pig playing with a train set? And you're probably thinking to yourself, or hopefully thinking to yourself, no, I don't think that would happen in real life. Then that tells us that this is what type of a text. I'll give you 5 seconds. If you're sitting next to someone at home, I want you to tell them your thoughts. What do you think the genre is? Ready, go. All right, if you said that this text is a fiction text, you are correct. Okay, this text is fiction because we know that the title, A Mother for Choco, has to do with characters. So there are going to be characters in this text. We also notice that these are not real photographs, they're illustrations. And that doesn't always mean that a text is fiction, but it can be, okay? It's a good clue that it can be a fiction text. And when I asked you to focus on this bottom illustration here, this is a huge clue that shows us that this is a fiction text, a made-up story, because normally we don't have animals playing with toys in real life, especially a crocodile or an alligator, a pig, and a hippo, right? So now that we know that this is a fiction text, I want you to think, what are the things that we need to write about in our main idea if it's a fiction text. There are 4 things. I'm going to give you 15 seconds and see if you can name off the 4 things. If there's someone sitting next to you, please share with them. Okay, ready? Go ahead, name them. All right, so if you have named those 4 things or if you got stuck, that's okay. We're going to take a look. I actually wrote the 4 things that we're going to be looking for down. So I'm going to flip my camera again and you can take a look. So for a fiction text, in our main idea, we need to talk about the characters, the problem. Was there a problem in the story? And how is it solved? So we're going to mention a solution if there is one. And lastly, the lesson learned. Okay, what greater message do we learn from this story? What can we take out of this story and apply it to our own lives? All right, so I want you thinking about those 4 things as I read the text, because then once I'm done reading, as your assignment, you are going to write about each of those 4 things. All right, so here we go. A mother for Choco. Choco was a little bird who lived all alone. He wished he had a mother, but who could his mother be? One day, he set off to find her. First, Choco met Mrs. Giraffe. "Oh, Mrs. Giraffe," he cried, "you are yellow just like me. Are you my mother?" "I'm sorry," sighed Mrs. Giraffe, "but I don't have wings like you." Next, Choco met Mrs. Penguin. "Oh, Mrs. Penguin," he cried, "you have wings just like me. Are you my mother?" Let's freeze right here. What I want you to be thinking about are who are some of the characters that we learned about? Who is the main character? If you're thinking Choco, you're on the complete right track. Choco is our main character, and he's coming across some other characters. And do you see a problem that is emerging in the story? I'm going to reread the first sentence again so that maybe it'll help you think about the problem, okay? Choco was a little bird who lived all alone. He wished he had a mother, but who could his mother be? I'm going to pause right there. That's my hint to you about the problem in this story. What is the problem for Choco? Okay, what is the issue for him? Let's continue reading. "I'm sorry," sighed Mrs. Penguin, "but I don't have big round cheeks like you." Then Choco met Mrs. Walrus. "Oh, Mrs. Walrus," he cried, "you have big round cheeks just like me. Are you my mother?" "Now look," grumped Mrs. Walrus, "I don't have striped feet like you, so don't bother me." No matter where Choco searched, he couldn't find a mother who looked just like him. When Choco saw Mrs. Bear picking apples, he knew she couldn't be his mother. Mrs. Bear didn't look like him at all. Choco was so sad he started to cry. All right, so at this point, it does look like there was a problem that developed in our story. What is the problem for Choco? What is making him so sad that he started to cry? Let's continue reading and figure out if Choco solves his problem. "Mommy, Mommy, I need a mommy." Mrs. Bear came running to see what was the matter. As she listened to Choco's story, she sighed. "Oh dear, if you had a mommy, what would she do?" "Oh, I'm sure she would hold me," sobbed Choco. "Like this?" asked Mrs. Bear, and she held Choco very tight. "Yes, and I'm sure she would kiss me too," said Choco. "Like this?" asked Mrs. Bear, and she lifted Choco and gave him a big kiss. "Yes, and I'm sure she would sing and dance with me to cheer me up," said Choco. "Like this?" asked Mrs. Bear, and they sang and danced together. When they stopped to rest, Mrs. Bear turned to Choco and said, "Choco, maybe I could be your mother." "You?" Choco cried. "But you aren't yellow, and you don't have wings or big round cheeks or striped feet like me." "My goodness," said Mrs. Bear, "that would make me look funny." Choco thought it was funny too. "Well," said Mrs. Bear, "my other children are waiting for me at home. Why don't you join us for apple pie, Choco?" Apple pie sounded wonderful to Choco. So off they went. When they arrived, Mrs. Bear's other children rushed out to greet her. "Choco," said Mrs. Bear, "meet Hippie, Allie, and Piggy. I am their mother too." And I'm going to pause because as you can see in the illustration down here, we have Allie, Hippie, and Piggy. So those are her other children. And here's how the story ends. The sweet smell of apple pie and the sound of laughter soon filled Mrs. Bear's home. After their delicious treat, Mrs. Bear gave all her children a big warm bear hug, and Choco was very happy that his new mommy looked just the way she did. And that is the end of our story. So, just to repeat, your assignment today is to write down the main idea. And your main idea should have all 4 of these parts that we mentioned earlier. And again, I'm going to review them. Okay? So, we know this is a fiction text in your main idea. Please make sure that you talk about the characters. There's one main character who we already discussed and mentioned, and that is Choco. And you should also be mentioning a couple other characters that he meets and comes across in the story. You also should talk about what's the problem, okay? Why was Choco so sad in the story? What was he searching for? And how was the problem solved? We learned that Mrs. Bear is also a character in this story. So how does she help Choco solve his problem? And lastly, what is the lesson learned? And the lesson learned is a little bit tricky sometimes, but what I want you to think about for this lesson learned is the clue I'm going to give you is, what do we think about people's appearance? What do we learn about appearances from this text? Does it matter what you look like? When we think about families and love, I want you to talk about the greater meaning of this text and include some of those words that I just gave you. Be thinking about the hints that I just gave you. So I will be looking later today to see if you posted a picture of a written response that you have with all 4 of these included in it, or you can also post a video of you yourself talking about all 4 of these things. Either would be acceptable, and we will hopefully hear back from you by the end of the today. All right. Have a great day, scholars. I'm very proud of you, and I miss you very much.